The Greeks were the first to have a coherent scientific activity and to liberate scientific thought. But then a phenomenon occurred which still astonishes historians: the almost total separation of science and technique. Doubtless this separation was less absolute than the example of Archimedes has led historians to believe, but it is certain that material needs were treated with contempt, that technical research was considered unworthy of the intellect, and that the goal of science was not application, but rather contemplation. Plato shunned any compromise with application, even in order to forward scientific research. For him, only the most abstract possible exercise of reason was important. Archimedes went even further. True, he rationalized practice and even made applications to a certain degree, but his machine was to be destroyed after it had demonstrated the exactness of his numerical reckonings. For one thing, theirs was a conception of life which scorned material needs and the improvement of practical life, discredited manual labor because of a practice of slavery, held contemplation to be the goal of intellectual activity, refused the use of power, respected natural things. The Greeks were suspicious of technical activity because it represented an aspect of brute force and implied a want of moderation. Man, however humble his technical equipment, has from the very beginning played the role of sorcerer's apprentice in relation to the machine. This feeling on the part of the Greeks was not a reflection of a primitive man's fear in the face of something he does not understand, the explanation given today when certain persons take fright at our techniques. Rather, it was the result, perfectly mastered and perfectly measured, of a certain conception of life. It represented an apex of civilization and intelligence. Here we find the supreme Greek virtue, self-control. The rejection of technique was a deliberate, positive activity involving self-mastery, recognition of destiny, and the application of a given conception of life. Only the most modest techniques were permitted, those which would respond directly to material needs in such a way that these needs did not get the upper hand.